our story. This week we catch up with Harsimrat Kaur Badal, the MP from Bathinda. In fact, she will be contesting a second term from this constituency. So we talk to her both about state and national level politics. We are here in Bathinda and we'll be talking to the candidate from SAD, Harsimrat Kaur Badal. Ma'am, this is your second election from Bathinda now. So, how did you see, first of all, your first stint in Parliament?
I think Parliament was not a very joyful experience. As a first-timer MP, I was rather disappointed with the functioning of the Parliament. As you know, it's probably the worst performing Parliament. The 15th Lok Sabha has been the worst performing Parliament. So for a first-timer, that was disillusioning. But working in the constituency has given me great joy, and I think I need to be thankful that our government was in power in the state, because otherwise, if I didn't have any power to do anything in my constituency and not being able to raise any issues in the Parliament because it doesn't function, it would have been a total failure. So whatever I have been able to do, I'm happy because I was able to do because of our government being in power here. But as far as raising issues, when the Parliament doesn't function, it's very sad that the ruling party, who's supposed to ensure the functioning of the Parliament, often ended up playing games to ensure it didn't function. So, you know, it was all one saw was this blame game happening where they blame the opposition, but they do things to ensure, you know, for example, when there's a scam and the entire opposition is asking for the resignation of those ministers, the entire session would be a washout because Congress would say, no, they're not resigning. As soon as the session gets over, 4 days later, those guys are kicked out. They bring in the Telangana bill 3 days before the session. I mean, why not bring it 3 days before the end of the session so that at least the session functions?
What about, you know, BJP is a party aligning with their flip-flop on Telangana. You know, sometimes they said yes, sometimes they said no.
No, I don't think so. I think they were always very clear that they were for Telangana, but they wanted, like everybody else, they wanted it debated, they wanted it discussed, and they wanted whatever both sides issues to be addressed, you know, whatever reservations both sides had, those needed to be addressed, which is fair enough, because I don't think that any government sitting in the center should have the power to divide a state if the people of the state don't want it.
When the blackout happened, what was happening in the house?
No, I frankly, I didn't waste much time in the last session, because after spending a week there, I realized it was going to be a washout, as had the earlier 2 sessions.
Right.
So I decided to come. I knew the elections are going to be announced, and I wanted to finish my last minute work in my own constituency before the code of conduct, because as you know, the code will come in and our elections are going to be towards the end. So we'll have like a 3-month gap before the elections actually happen. So, you know, all the works which had to be done in these 3 months, I wanted to just ensure that they were all on ground and they would not be stopped because of the code of conduct. So I didn't bother spending wasting time there. I'd rather be doing concrete work on ground.
But I've been hearing some of your speeches that you're making to the people in Bathinda here. You're asking them to vote for a government that works, you know, and you said the BJP government. Prakash Singh Badal is not in a prime ministerial race?
No, not at all. He's never been. He's always wanted to serve the people of Punjab, and there's been no 2 ways about that, and he's made that very clear. We are supporting the BJP-led NDA government, and we're all hoping that Mr. Modi becomes the Prime Minister. I'm pretty confident that he will, and that's what I'm appealing to the people, that the country cannot afford a weak Prime Minister or a fractured mandate. You know, it's time we gave the mandate to a nominee for leading the nation who's got a track record of having done something. Otherwise, we have seen last 10 years where the responsibility lies with someone and the power lies somewhere else, and the entire nation has gone totally astray. Nobody's issues are being addressed. So this is not what the country can afford, because frankly, this UPA government has brought the country to such a stage that high fiscal deficit, price rise, inflation, joblessness, where are we heading? We can't afford another 5 years like this. So we need to bring in a decisive government and a leader who can take decisions and take the hard decisions which are needed to take the country forward. That's what the youth needs. I hope, at least in Punjab, that people will come out and take the right decision. I'm pretty confident that they will.
You know, when Modi came to Punjab, in his rally recently, he spoke about saying one of the Panch Pyares was from Gujarat.
Yeah.
Lekin Gujarat mein the Sikhs who are living in Kutch, he's displacing them. He talks about Article 370.
I think you didn't hear before he said that, the first thing he said, that rumors are being spread about Sikhs being displaced. And he says, first of all, I want to tell the nation that every Indian has a right on Gujarat as much as Modi has. Nobody has any less of a right. And I have assured before also that no Sikh farmer is going to be displaced, and I'm repeating and reiterating that today.
But his state government has gone
and he
against the
says,
Gujarat High Court order
not
to
at all.
Supreme Court saying that, you know, this
No,
land,
I think there is a slight miscommunication, because what has been happening, I've been speaking to my MPs from Gujarat as well, my colleagues.
Right.
They said what was earlier totally farming land, which is what the Sikhs where they are staying. Now huge landowners are coming there and trying to buy up cheap irrigated land or cheap farming land for commercial purposes.
Correct,
And they do not, the government doesn't want that to happen, because obviously they'll get it at pittance and then they'll make huge money out of it. So the government has actively stopped that farmers cannot sell their lands to these big landholders, and that's what the whole issue. No farmer is being displaced. And if any officer even does it, he says, I will take action against and remove the officer, but no farmer will go from there. So I think a chief minister and a prime ministerial candidate announcing that from a stage on national television.
well, Modi has been known to get his facts wrong before.
I don't think in this case, if he gets his facts wrong, we have to first wait for him to be proved that he's done it, that he's done something wrong. It's gone to the court, no farmers been displaced, and if they are, we'll take action after that. You can't start blaming the guy when he's saying, I'm not going to do it. You can't hold a bullet to his head and say, yes, you are doing
But
it.
his government has moved the Supreme Court. They can go
No, they, like I said, that they have said that big people from the commercial people cannot come and buy up farming land. That's rural land, that they can, farming land cannot be turned into a money-making spree for people who with big commercial interests. That's what they have said. So the farmer cannot sell for that tribe, but they have not said that they are going to take over
But
the
one thing
lands.
on Modi I've noticed, whether in Uttarakhand he sent a plane to get Gujaratis out. So he has this mentality towards Gujarat. How do you expect him to have a pan-India mentality?
No, I
Do you have
think
faith in him?
when you are CM of a certain state, obviously you feel towards the people of your own state. It's a very natural thing. So as CM of Gujarat, if he
As a
did
CM
something...
who wants to be a PM, na? That's the
No,
difference
so
with Modi.
it's not as if when he becomes PM, he will not do for the rest of the country. But I think that just goes to show that when as CM, he can feel so much for his people. Once he becomes the national leader, how much he'll feel for his people. You shouldn't think that today, because Mr. Badal is doing in Punjab, he will wish harm for somewhere else. You should just see that if the man is so dedicated towards his own state, he's going to be so dedicated towards the entire country. You should look at the dedication and the will of the person of wanting to serve his people. I think that's what it shows.
Okay, moving
Unlike
on.
the government of India's leadership.
Okay, I was just thinking, you know, speaking of another PM candidate, this Rahul Gandhi, he's brought this whole 84 riots into the picture again. Was it an issue, as Rahul again made it an issue?
I think Mr. Rahul Gandhi is a liability for his own party, first and foremost. Secondly, he'll be a total disaster if, God forbid, he ever becomes the Prime Minister. I mean, you take the 84 thing. First, his grandmother attacked the Golden Temple, which I don't think any right-thinking Prime Minister in their right mind could even think of attacking a holy shrine, that too of the highest, which is in the highest esteem of every Sikh worldwide. And now, as reports come out, that she even asked for foreign help to help her out do that. You know, which Prime Minister asks another country for help to attack her own people? It's like not just shameful, it's disgusting. And all the while she painted the Sikhs as anti-national, that they are terrorists holed up inside, so she has to. So she painted the Sikhs as terrorists and took refuge in that, whereas it was all an election stunt to win the next election.
But if you anger the Sikhs so much, after that there has been Congress governments in Punjab.
Which then led, you know, the circumstances were such which led to her assassination. And then the massacre against Sikhs which took place, which every Sikh has been saying that this has all been done by the Congress, and for 30 years the Congress party worked overtime to say we had nothing to do with it. And their own grandson stands up and says, yes, Congress was involved, but he does not say who the Congress people were, what action is taken against them. Forget about apologizing for such a thing. So, rake it up. It has always been an issue with the Sikhs. There's no two ways. This is not an issue which is going to die down until justice is served. It will not die down no matter how hard the Gandhi family and the Congress party try. But for finally a Gandhi to admit that, yes, we were behind the 84 massacre is a huge thing. And after having admitted that, to do nothing about it and not to apologize, I think it goes to show this so-called secular garb that this Congress party and the Gandhis were pointing fingers at others. What about you yourself? You should, I mean, this is like throwing stones at people who live in glass houses.
What would an apology do? Because at the end of the day, what he said is, I was a kid, I was not there. You know, my Prime Minister apologized.
So when his father said the earth shakes when a big tree falls and tried to whitewash what was happening, are they going to get the Prime Minister to apologize for that statement as well? What about the people who were responsible for it? Was the Prime Minister responsible? I think it's shameful that they should even make the Prime Minister apologize and not have the guts to do it themselves. That just goes to show the level of their mentality and thinking. Commit the crime and get somebody else to apologize. I've never heard of that logic before.
Okay, last national issue after which we talk about your constituency is about the Aam Aadmi Party. Do you see them as a big challenge in Punjab? Because Punjab, Haryana, Delhi is the belt for the Aam Aadmi Party.
No, not at all. I don't even see them as a challenge in India because if anybody had any doubt, their performance in Delhi has more than proved that they are only fit for agitation, they're not fit for governance. Because at the end of the day, governing a state and definitely governing a country, even if you look for a driver for your car, you ask him what kind of experience he has and how long he's been driving for. You know, this is not a joke. It's not a training ground or a playground that someone who's just used to agitating and throwing muck basically and getting votes by fanning anti feelings does not make him perfect to be able to govern. And that Delhi was a classic example that when he wanted to form the government, he says that I've gone and asked people and everybody's saying form it, even though he swore on his children's head that he would not align with Congress and BJP. He aligns with that very same party who they have been fighting against, forms the government saying people want that. And then when he couldn't govern, he was a total failure in governing the UP party. Then without asking the people, after calling themselves a people party, if you took people's advice to form the government, surely you should take them into confidence before leaving it. Then without asking the people, because suddenly the Prime Minister aspirations seemed more important, dumped the territory of Delhi and the aspirations of Delhiites, who gave him a 6 months mandate hoping that he would do something, dumped them and walked off. So I think everybody, a lot of people have seen through this that they were not fit for governing.
Do you think BJP played into a trap on the Lokpal bill? By
not at all.
letting him go out as a martyr. He wanted an issue. He also, I think, realized that he is better.
No, I think everybody wanted him for 6 months to do something and show to the people. It's only when he realized that he was a failure and he would not be able to, that he thought it was best to get out while it didn't get worse. So he got out and he ran, which I think is very sad because you just ended up fooling people. And I don't think the people of India are forgive people very easily who just try and get votes by showing them not the real picture, but by making false promises and false propaganda.
Okay, I know you have a whole day of programming to do. We are going to follow you while you are touring your constituency.
Sure.
And the next segment, we are going to talk to you about your constituency and the issues, that you have raised here, what this constituency really means for you.
Great. I look forward to that.
We are still here in Bathinda where Harsimrat Kaur Badal is carrying on her whirlwind tour of her constituency. She's meeting people. In fact, today we are here at her favorite outfit, which is an NGO, Nanni Cha, that she runs, a self-help group for women. Earlier, she gave out cards for subsidized rice and wheat schemes to her people. As you know, it is election time and Harsimrat Kaur Badal is wasting no time. To Punjab specifically and to Bathinda, I think that's where your heart lies for the last 5 years at least.
Yeah, my heart lies in Punjab, no doubt.
But in this constituency of Bathinda, we are here in, I think, a rural belt, which is in Mansa district. What are the big issues here? Because, a lot of people are saying that the protests for Chandigarh starts in Bathinda. A lot of people come here and start protesting about the state government.
Absolutely. It's become like probably the Jantar Mantar of Punjab is Bathinda because they think it's the CM's constituency and this is the time and the place to put the pressure because you attacked the Badals here and that's where you'll get heard, which is unfortunate. And as you saw, a lot of them are now even approaching me, even though those are central schemes with which Punjab government has nothing to do. But this is a pressure time where everyone tries to put every kind of pressure. And of course, coming from the ruling family, I guess it has a huge amount of disadvantages as well, these being just one of those. But yes, as far as the constituency is concerned, there's no doubt that I've been able to address whatever issues people have had in this area, also because of being part of the family. And
when I was coming here, I was expecting another Raebareli Amethi, I have to tell you, but this has come as a pleasant surprise. I see a lot of development, a lot of big roads. People here are saying that this is last 5-6 years, I think.
Yeah, no, I think the credit goes to Mr. Badal. He's been, you can ask anybody on the street, for last 60 years his life has been dedicated to the people of Punjab. So he knows whether it's a rural village or a city, he knows it like the back of his hand. He knows the issue that a worker working in these fields has, he knows the issues that the farmer who owns the land has, he knows the issue of what his electricity is, he knows every issue in every place. And
So
the
which
fact
Mr.
that,
Badal trained you, senior or junior, or you learned from both?
you know, I think Punjab for the first time has developed so much because they've got this novel duo of father and son, which is what I've been saying, that this is the first time this opportunity the state has had where they've got the experience of Mr. Badal and they've got the vision of Sukhbir Singh Badal. So, you know, one can't work. Sukhbir is working overtime to increase the revenues, to change the face of Punjab, whether it's bringing in industrialists and wooing the industry and setting up systems so that industry is attracted to come here. Power projects, railway overbridges, underbridges, the development of Punjab as a state. And Mr. Badal, who knows what every segment needs. So unless there's the money to implement all these, both are equally important. And I think the CM's time gets taken up. One man working against two, obviously, two make double the work. So that's probably the reason in 7 years we've been able to do what has not been done in the last 60 years.
Do we see Sukhbir becoming the CM anytime soon, or will, you know, that
I think
Akhilesh Yadav model?
we are all very happy under Mr. Badal's guidance. And I hope and pray to God he gives him a long and healthy life. And we would be more than happy to carry on the way it is.
Is Sukhbir going to, if there is a BJP and NDA government in Delhi, would he be shifting to Delhi? He has been a minister before.
No, I think Sukhbir has no intentions of shifting to Delhi.
So you are the ambassador to Delhi for the party?
I'm also a child of destiny. I had no interest in politics whatsoever. In fact, Sukhbir and I got married on the understanding that he would never enter politics. So that's how
So much for that one.
Yeah, so I think destiny has its own plan, not just him, but even me. So there's...
How did you get into politics?
I think in the last Lok Sabha elections, the ex-chief minister of Congress president and ex-chief minister said that he's going to put up his son, and he got his son the ticket from here and said he was going to drive the Badals out of their home turf and finish them off. So that was all the Badals needed, was a challenge like that. And then the party wanted a family member to contest him. So there was only my mother-in-law and me, since Sukhbir was already deputy CM and the CM was already the CM. That just left my mother-in-law and me. We were a very small family. And she didn't keep very good health, so the obvious choice. So I was campaigning, thinking that, you know, because at that time Sukhbir had not decided to contest state elections. And suddenly a by-election came up and he fought that and got into state elections. So I said, then what am I doing here? He said, no, whichever candidate come, you will have to campaign for them. So because I'd already started campaigning for Sukhbir in this area. So suddenly I was campaigning for whichever candidate Akali was going to announce. And the next thing I knew, I was the candidate, you know, because I was campaigning. So people said, if his son is coming, we want a family member, we want her. So it was just destiny. Some things I think are...
So you owe it to Amrinder actually for coming into politics.
Yeah, in a way, yes, because I don't
think... That's going to be a decision he's going to do. Is he going to come and stand from here against you?
I have no idea who Congress decides to send. They're most welcome to send whoever. I've always said, why doesn't Rahul Gandhi come? It would be like a battle that I'd enjoy fighting. So I hope they give me a good competitor, that at least it makes it worth my while.
You're a Sikh, you like a good fight.
I love a good fight. Like a total Sadarni.
They call you Biba here. That means eldest.
Good girl.
Good girl.
Yeah.
So are you a good girl?
Yeah, I am.
About the constituency, a lot of things you've done. I noticed also you've also built a lot of dharamshalas and gyms. Why gyms? That's
No, see, one is due to this drug addiction and all, we've tried in a big way to promote sports. So like Sukhbir has revived kabaddi. That has become like every village has a kabaddi team and all now, you know. So this has just been revived in the last 3 years, where it's more like an Olympic where international teams of men and women are coming. So it's become a big thing. So one thing was kabaddi, the next thing was to give them something to do in the villages, because what's happening is that when they've got nothing to do, that's when they get towards drugs. So giving them gyms, so that diverting them towards sports and towards health rather than these wrong things. So gyms we provided in every village. Dharamshala is more because, you know, the poor people, they can't afford marriage palaces, even if it's for a bhog or for a wedding or even for a rok or any of the small functions. So this is the only common place where they can all congregate. I have given for everything, right from drinking water pipes to irrigation pipes.
I mean, cancer was a big problem here because of, I think, the water.
Yeah, water contamination was a big issue. And that's what I tell people, that 5 years ago, every village I'd go, the first thing they'd ask for, these RO system, these reverse osmosis system that we had started. That was the first thing they'd ask for. And I'm glad to say that every village we've put into, there's nobody who asked for that. And after the RO system, the next things were water works. So we've put up, I think, something like over 500 water works where, you know, clean drinking water is given not just to drink, but even otherwise water for other purposes. I can happily say that probably what has not been done in 60 years, we've managed to do in these 5 years, because I've done every village probably 4 times over.
It's a good election slogan to take. But, you know, you're a convent educator, am I right? I mean, this is not how you went to school, clearly.
No.
How did you now get into this?
I think head covered is more like, as you'll see in the villages here, most women keep their head covered. It's a sign of respect for your elders. So being the Badal Bahu, I'm like a Bahu of this area, you know, daughter-in-laws all cover their head. So that's how I decided to cover my head, because that's the tradition here. The only thing what I didn't do was go to Delhi and uncover my head, because I don't like having dual personalities. I am what I am, and I'm the same for everyone. So even though in Delhi they tell me, how are you so regressive with such outdated things, I felt that it's a sign of respect. And if that's the tradition in my state, if I do it for my people, I don't want them to be seeing another avatar. Yeah.
And finally, about your kids, how are they reacting? Both parents in politics.
I know it's been really
Both
tough.
parents have very little time for them.
I think the kids have sacrificed the maximum, if I can say so. But with the grace of God, over time, the resentment of not having a parent around has changed to somewhat extent to pride for what the parents are doing. And I hope they'll be canvassing for me as well in their own little way if they get time off school and college. And they're very supportive. So my kids are very happy with my social agenda. And through the social agenda, they've learned a lot of what I'm doing, how that gave me the platform to do more for women. You know, like I go to the villages, I call the women and address their issues, which they say no one's ever called us even. And even if we've had something to say, we've never been able to come to a function or even get close to a leader. So I made it a point to call the women, and you'll notice in all my functions, the women are there in a huge number. And I think my lead of getting the highest margin in Punjab, I credit it to the women in my constituency.
Women power, finally.
Finally, I think, they make up half the sky, they're half the population. And none of the issues get addressed. And look at the state of women. I mean, if you look at the crime against women and the issues, why should they not be addressed equally? I mean,
You've got women in the Punjab police also, right?
Yeah, this is the first time that after I came into politics, that my husband being the Home Minister, I told him to recruit women in the police department, 3,200 police women. There have been all women police centers, about 6-8 of them made, so that a woman can at least go and tell her problems. She doesn't have to go tell that she's, whether she's been raped or assaulted to a man. Every woman hesitates doing that. So police constables in every police station, all women police stations, 181 helpline. And in my own constituency, we started this WASP where on the motorcycles and the scooties, these all women teams who stand outside colleges, outside schools and hospitals, so that, this thing of eve teasing or anything, they can immediately take action. So we've done whatever in one's own small way that you could think of making the environment more friendly for the women folk. And I think that's the difference when a woman comes in front, and that's why more women need to come into the parliament.
Are your children going to come? Is your daughter planning to join politics?
My older one's taken up political science, but she wants to be more in framing policies, which I think is very important, and that's what's lacking. We're enough people on the ground. We need people who do the big planning now. So yeah, she's taken up political science, but she doesn't want to fight elections. But nor did I. So I don't know what destiny has in store. The others are still too young. They're in school. It's their own decision.
Okay. Finally, BJP has always been speaking against dynasty, but here in the Akali Dal, we see a lot of dynasty. Is that a problem with your allies? How do you?
No, I think not a problem. Our alliance is based on a common minimum program.
Thank you so much for talking to us, and we're going to keep tracking you on your campaign.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best.
Thanks.
Well, that was Harsimrat Kaur Badal at her candid best. We leave her now as she rushes off to keep another date with the constituency. But from us in Bhatinda, it's goodbye for now. Thank you for watching Cover Story, and we'll see you again same time next week.